All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show 2022. We're very happy to have you back. It is now time to hear from the gentlemen at FAST Pinball. Learn, design, build, make, code, pinball. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you. Can you hear me on the mic, or am I just yelling? Oh my gosh! Pinball, what? Hello! We're FAST Pinball. I'm Brian.
Dave.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Eli.
And we make pinball. You can make pinball. We'll help you make pinball. We'll all make pinball together. This is what we do. We help you make pinball. And you know, the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show is the Homebrew Pinball Show. We go to lots of pinball shows all over the country. There's more homebrew and homemade pinball at this show than any other show on planet Earth. So congratulations to the folks here at the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show. By the way, we're all from the Seattle, Tacoma, Northwest Washington area. So we're local. We have so much here in the booth, we cannot even fit it in one picture. Our slide is just a picture of us here. There's some pictures on the slide over there that might show up. Or maybe it's going out to the streams. For those watching us on the YouTube stream, thank you for watching us.
Yeah.
But let's talk about why we're here and what we're doing. Like Aaron, the Northwest Show, we're all together. We're making pinball.
Right.
What's happening, man?
This is what we live for. Like, we all sit in our garages, we trudge away on whether it's like electronics or code and all these things to create the potential to build pinball machines. Getting to these shows is a chance where you see everybody bring their projects out, show all the great things they've done with it, but then you get that camaraderie and stuff too, that like really shows like, man, I've been trudging away. You have this goal to get to a show, and that milestone of you're gonna get here with whatever you get. The progress is as far as you could get, and before you had to load it in the truck and get to the show. So coming to these shows is just great. And it's been a long break that we've had, and I think that getting here and seeing all the smiling faces, hearing all the voices that I know that are familiar, and it's a great like community experience. And pinball takes a village, and I feel like everything that we've been able to be a part of to get into these games is really shown off by what people have done with it. So that's why these shows are super great.
And like we said, so we're FAST Pinball. We make these. We make the circuit boards that go inside pinball machines. And then you take these and you make your own pinball machines. Or you update the code in an existing pinball machine. How many of you want to make a pinball machine? A thought about that might be kind of cool. That is, look around.
That's a solid crew.
You're all crazy.
You're in the right place.
This is it. How many of you have made pinball machines before? Look at these, look at, there's hands up.
I see there's a group in the corner here.
Look at Brandon, he's in high school. I mean, you can do it. He's all, Jack, Brian, who else is back there?
Mike, right behind John
Mike,
Poop.
Steve. Yeah, like there's people here building pinball machines. Yeah. And we can help you build pinball machines. We can help bring your dreams to life, whether you want to take an existing machine you have and just repaint it and update the code, whether you want to take an old machine and make it a new machine, whether you want to build a machine from scratch, right. Your dream theme. These machines are here. And we'll help you do it.
And if you want to see a preview of what your workspace will look like come by our booth, and you're going to see just tools and wire snippets and connectors and stuff thrown all over the place. But it's where the good things happen. You know, it's come and see all the things in the booth. I mean, we're going to cruise through a bunch of topics really fast, but like to come and hang out in the booth and ask the questions, like there's no dumb questions. Like looking at something going, why do you even do this? Like that's the place to ask, because many of us have been learning like over the years. There's people that are fresh learning that would love to be the one to tell you the answer because they just learned it. So that's like the kind of community that's there for sure.
And as somebody who started his own machine more than a decade ago, let me tell you, now is the time to be doing it because there's so much support out there. There's such a great community, and you're not alone when you take up the soldering iron and the computer and start work.
And the sad part is, I'm the one that makes all the hardware, but I have not made a pinball machine yet. I see them all the time. I can't wait to get to the show to play them and see what everyone else is doing, but gosh, I hope one time it slows down enough that I can actually make a pinball machine. I have a lot of ideas, but
Yeah, that is really funny because Dave and I started this together, and I've built all of 0 full pinball machines myself. But the dad in me is satisfied by seeing all of the great things that have been created with all the things that we do. So, I aspire to bring a game next year, so I'm saying that publicly. Like, I want to get a project, at least in a box that I can drag out here, so I need everybody here to hold me accountable. Jack, I see you laughing at me. I'm going to hear from you. I know this.
All right.
So.
Can I help? I want to build with you.
Seriously, we got to do this.
Internet. Hello, Internet. Aaron Davis on June 4th, 2022.
Dave's going to make sure it works, but yeah.
Committed to
we
bringing
will
the
do this.
pinball machine to the show next year. But you walk in the main hall there. Go to the left. You see we've got 80 feet along the wall with 16 pinball machines in them. Some built completely from scratch, like people actually build the cabinets themselves. Some where people took old machines and sanded them down and repainted them and just redid the play fields. Some where they took an existing machine and just updated the code. So depending on how deep or how real you want to make this, there's big ones, there's little ones, there's complicated ones, there's old ones, there's new ones. There's brand new companies making pinball machines with this stuff. There's lots of different ways. When you say make pinball, that can mean different things to different people. Right? One person might like doing art. One person might like doing programming. One person might like doing cabinet building. One person might like doing storytelling, lighting design, electronics. One of you might be afraid of electricity. One of you is good with electricity. There's so many different skills involved, and how do you say it? What's hard to you is easy to the person sitting next to you.
Everybody's hard part is different. So it's there's the things that you're good at, the things you're interested in doing, and the things that you don't want to do. There's somebody in your community or friends or a new friend you're going to make that actually loves that part of it. So that's why it's the expectation that you can do everything in a game, don't make it too daunting. Do the parts you're interested in, and then there'll be somebody in the community. One of my favorite things way back was where one guy was trying to model something. I think it was Mark and City was modeling a bathtub for his Nightmare Before Christmas game, and it wasn't his skill set to whip that up. And then Mike O'Rourke down in Portland was like, dude, I can make that for you real quick and mail it to you. And it was just really cool to see that that one little blocking part of his project ended up coming together really cool and really easily. And it's a great way to see with the stuff you're good at that you can help somebody else at and keep their project moving. And one of the things that we're showing at the show here too for the first time is we call it our retro platform. And these are the controllers that you're going to take and put it into your existing Williams Ballet game, WPC 95, System 11. And what's really fun about that too is there's a lot of game programmers and stuff in our community up here. The ones that would love to get into making pinball, but the idea of building pinball is not the entry point. So you can take your existing game, put one of our boards in it, and play your original game for sure. It plays the original game as is. You can't even tell the difference. But then you can switch mode and write your own code. So the idea of I have a Creature from the Black Lagoon in my house, and I've always thought that the mode should be different, or I thought the risk versus reward was wrong. Well, step up, put the Mission Pinball framework in, plug in, and start writing a game. And then when the family wants to play the game, your friends are coming over, switch it back to the original one. But then you can switch it over and show your progress in your game as well. So that's a really cool thing, because I think that with all that we're doing with the electronics to make it easier to program on these ancient games, I'm really most excited about the System 11 era, where those games are so rich and so full, but the code is really shallow. So yeah, show them this board, Dave. This is awesome.
Yeah, so this is a System 11 board, and of all of the platforms, we try to keep them all the same. WPC, the ones we support again is System 11, 89, and 95. And boy, the System 11 and all the different eras and soundboards and everything, oh my gosh, there was so much learning that we had to go and dig and find out every, how many soundboards are there, Eli? It's at least 8 or something.
The combinatorics between the CPU versions and the sound versions on System 11 get pretty out of hand pretty fast.
So I don't know what rev we're on the board. We try to take pride in not having to turn these things too many times, but because of the soundboards, I know there was at least 3 involved just to do that. But we took great pride in trying to make the boards so that they're just all plug and play, same connectors, similar positions and all that. So you just pull the board out, plug it in. Like Aaron was saying, the original game will work, and then it's if you want to start at that point in time, switching out of the emulation mode, get into computer mode, and start programming. There you are. It's just that simple.
And
runs the original game.
Yeah, to be very clear, right? So System 11, right? This is a Williams Ballet from about 1986. Then through WPC era. So any of these games out here, the Williams Ballet, midway, about mid to late 80s up through the late 90s, all those machines, we've got the different boards for the different eras, but you literally, you buy the board, it fits where the old one went in, all the plug holes line up, it's 5 minutes, unplug the old board, plug the new one in. You can sell your old one on eBay. You don't need it anymore. This board runs the ROMs of your original game. It's licensed properly through Planetary Pinball and Williams and everything. So you drop this in, and it's running your existing game you have today. It just works. Yep. So you don't lose your existing game. But there's a little USB port on here. You can plug in a computer, and now, as I say, hold my beer. You plug in that computer, and you can do whatever you want. What can you do in that pinball machine? Anything you want. Blink a light. Push a button, make this thing move? Okay. Now this just got interesting. Because again, whether you want to take that existing game, like you've seen some of the people, some of the different projects you may have seen like in the market that do this. Like I'll find, just looking through my pictures here. Like Funhouse, Rudy's Nightmare. Have you heard of this? We've got it in our booth over there. It's like that kit, right? That you can have new code in Funhouse.
LCD screens, like all that stuff.
Yeah, that's based on this retro platform we're talking about, right? So they took our board and put a bunch of art and animators and like made a whole new Funhouse called Rudy's Nightmare. And now you can buy that as a kit, and you upgrade your machine, but plug in the board, plug in the new screen, and then when you power on the machine, it asks you, do you want to play the old classic mode? Or you want to play the new Rudy's Nightmare version of the game. And you just hold in the start button for 5 seconds to reset it, and it goes back to ask you again. So you can switch back and forth. There's a game that we're showing in our booth. We have Tales of the Arabian Nights, which is a different project by different people, where they're doing something called the Forgotten Tales. So you know Tales of the Arabian Nights, there's 7 tales in there. They wrote tales 8 through 14. So when you get bored of playing the first 7, here's the next 7. And they're using that in the platform. There's a No Good Gophers, similar kind of thing. You've got the original game, play it that way. You've got the new game. And it's cool because a lot of these kits that people make have LCD screens, but when you play the old version, it shows the dots or the segments or whatever on all that. There's one of these games that just was revealed at this show is from Anthony Van Winkle, Swords of Vengeance. You know Swords of Fury? That System 11, that was Bally? Williams?
Yeah, Williams.
He's got swords. There's actually 2 of them in the booth. Where, again, using one of these System 11 retro boards, he wrote his own code and worked with artists and animators and designers and voiceover people and recording engineers. And you can play Swords of Vengeance. But again, you plop that in there. You can play the original version or you make the new version. And all these different games or different companies are doing them, selling by different things. We are making the technology to allow you and everyone in the world to be awesome at making the pinball.
We've also developed the opportunities that, like, if you do make a game that is really great, that you think other people want to buy, like we've been working with Planetary Pinball along the way with all the women's ballet games that they control the licensing for. So the ROMs that we're running in the original games are all on the up and up. They're all approved. It's the way it should be done. But then if you do make a great game, you can build a homebrew game by yourself and play this and go nuts. But if you make something really great that you're like, I think I could sell some of these kits, it's all kind of, we call it pre-qualified. Like if it's on the platform, we know it's going to check out. We know it's going to run the original game code and emulation perfectly. For projects like this, it's a lot of work to go through and like get these things approved, test all that stuff out. So for Planetary to be able to look at a game that's already running on the platform that we've already kind of pre-qualified, all they end up having to do is make sure it meets all the licensing requirements. Has no inappropriate content in it, all the things that don't tarnish the original license brands and stuff like that. So what's really great about that is it does provide a path to legitimacy. You can make a homebrew game, put all your effort into, get some friends writing music for it, get some voice actors to jump in, create something really great, and then actually take that to a commercial release. And that was actually what was really fun about the Swords of Vengeance project that Anthony's got. This is the first time I got to play it was here at the show, and I've been watching. We've been doing calls for months, year, or whatever it is, and we've been seeing snippets of what the artists have been working on, what the animations are that he's been working on, what the music's like, all that stuff. So this was really great to come to the show, for one, to be back out in public playing pinball with all our friends again, but then to see this project that I've seen developing for kind of a year. It's been a while.
And for me, it was actually the first one with the System 11 platform.
Right,
so
yeah.
Someone tested 89, someone tested 95, and this poor System 11 has only been tested in my house. So I was like, oh yes, finally a game using the System 11. Thank you.
Yeah, so come and check that out. Look at all the detail that goes into this, because you got to remember too, from a programming, animation, sound standpoint, if you're making one of these conversion kit games, it's just as much work as if it was a whole original game. So you're just not building the whole box and engineering the whole playfield, but the code, animation, sound work, everything that goes into that is just as deep as anything else. So if you're wanting to like tiptoe into making pinball as a career someday, like what a great entry point. You can try that out, get a good team together, can produce some great games on an existing platform where the geometry is already solved. It shoots good, the layout's fun, stuff like that. It even leads forward to like if you want to do like a retheme of an existing game, like a game where the playfield is super fun to shoot, the theme is uninteresting. Like, you know, that's an area too that I know that Planetary is even interested in being involved in that process too. Like we set the whole process up so you can make a game, build it on your existing game, and then release that as like as a retheme kind of project too. So there's so much opportunity and so much potential that comes with a lot of these things we've had. And I think that's the part where we do so much work that's behind the scenes, building the foundations to build a lot of great things on. And this is kind of like where we're starting to show off what you can do with it. So.
And some of those early groups have suffered along with us so that you don't need to.
Yeah.
We've got all the emulation is working at this point. All the, frameworks are in place for you to jump right in with the development and not have to worry if you're going to need to update your board again next week because we revised something. So you're already ahead of the guys who've gone before.
And that's a great point. And I think we should throw a thank you out to everybody who's ever taken an early version of our hardware, put it through the motions, tried things out, swapped out different pieces along the way, tried new firmware. I mean, there's people that are definitely into being a part of the process. And like Fast Pinball thanks everybody that's ever been involved, either trying boards, loaning us games. Like we're really trying to keep our reputation of if Fast asks to borrow a game, that you should let them borrow it because maybe when you get it back, it's got some new cool things in it. And again, like there's a lot of projects that we're gonna be doing over the years that do take time where I may need to borrow your game for 2 years by the time it's done with it. But again, that gives you an excuse to put another pinball machine in. That doesn't seem like you've taken too many machines all at once. But anyways, we're really enjoying how supportive everybody's been involved with this stuff, and we couldn't do it without everyone that's shared their time, energy, resources, brought beers over just as an excuse to look around the garage and see what's getting built. So anyways, it's good stuff.
And it's the model, like you look at what happens with iPhones, where before that, how do you make a software company? You have to like make discs or something and like put them in boxes and ship them to CompUSA. Like how does that even happen? And then now with the way it works with smartphones is you make a game, you upload it, and then the credits start coming in. And the work that we're doing is similar to that for pinball. So if you have this idea for a game, like for me personally, to work on a game for like years and years and years in your own basement, only for it to live in your basement, I feel like it's kind of a letdown a little bit. Like you make this cool machine, or even if it's an old, like you've got an old Joker's machine and you want to update it to modern day, more fun code, but then if no one else can see it in the world, how do you do that? Well, with the boards, with the licensing through Planetary Pinball, with the stuff that the guys are talking about, if you make one game, we can help you with, as Aaron said, the path to legitimacy, where it can be legitimately licensed, and you can sell these kits. And as you said, the kits allow people to buy it to still play the original game, because a lot of people don't want to take a jump into a 2.0 game or a new game if they lose the original. Like I like Funhouse. I don't want to lose the ability to play Funhouse, but if I can just select the start button if I'm playing the new one or the old one, then that becomes pretty fun.
Well, I think that's one of the things too, is that requirement of like I said, like you shouldn't lose a game by getting a new game. So we want to make sure the emulation was perfect. That's where like I'm between the guys that solve that. Between like the hardware and the software emulation tuned perfectly between it. Like you should not know the difference of whether a fast controller is running the original game or the original hardware's in there. So that's a bragging point. That's something that took a ton of work to do.
Yeah, my benchmark to sit there and prove to myself that we actually accomplished it was, I don't know how many of you people know Addams Family, but there's a part of Addams Family with that mini flipper over there that they call it thing flips. And the whole machine, since it's flipping, it has to know how to make the shot. So if you miss it, there's some switches on the other side that the machine will know whether it went into where it's supposed to, and it knows it's a little bit early or a little bit late on other things that might hit on the playfield. And so, I don't know. It's like, okay, we were doing good. Everything else is going great. And like, oh my God. So it's like, it was the bare moment. Is this going to work? And anytime you move it, there's a setting that says new location. So you basically are clearing out what it's learned about the position of the machine and how long it's going to take. So anyway, it takes a number of times. And so anyway, first time, nothing. Second time, it's missing it. Third time, missing it. Like, oh my God, when you don't have it. Fourth time, it hit it once. And then the fifth time, I think it didn't. and then every other time, like 80% of the time, it's hitting it. And I don't know how it could be possible, but that seemed better than what it was originally. And so anyway, oh my God, it's like, okay, guys, nailed it. Oh my God.
Just these little points to like
just
celebrate.
great.
Like, this is awesome. Yeah.
It was.
And the thing is, so again, what we're talking, this is to make sure that when you take that controller board out of your machine and put the FAST board in, as I said, we want to make sure that original game plays just like it was original. We want a professional player to not know the difference as to whether it has like the old, 30-year-old green board in there or the modern FAST board in there. And all that technology using the modern microprocessors and the modern capabilities, that was invented by this guy and that guy. And they worked this was their pandemic project. They worked very hard on this.
Yeah. I know, I hate to say it, but we had a lot of fun during the pandemic.
It's so fun. My wife laughs about how, like, whenever she comes out in the garage and we're in video chat, we're just giggling and, like, having fun because it really is fun, Like, yeah.
And what's cool about this, so again, you put these boards in, you can still play the 1.0 original game. But the 1.0 original game, it's running on our board now, not the old green one, right? Our board is running the original game, and we see all the code, and we see what's happening. And now, what can we do with that that's interesting? Because how many of you kind of like mods in your machines? You don't want to admit that you spent $300 for a child's toy and bolted it into your machine, but like, we like them. It blinks. Okay, gosh, this guy, Eli, you were a mod guy from...
Yeah, I mean, the way any of you might possibly know who I am is that I did a couple of very popular mods for the Tron game, which was a micro arcade cabinet that you could install and a version of the light up lamps that came on the Pro, on the limited edition, sorry, so that everybody could put those onto their Pro version. And so those kind of, even though the arcade cabinet seems fancy, it's actually about the simplest mod that's possible, and that it just plugs into power, and that's all it does. The ramp lighting hooks into the bus that goes between the CPU board and the driver board, and it spies on everything that's going on in there, and it took lots of work to get that going. But if you have a board in your machine that's running an emulated version of the original ROMs, then suddenly you have access to quite a lot of information, like which lamps are on, which switches have been hit, what's on the display, what's in RAM, what mode is active, what player is up. So suddenly you have quite a lot of free information that is available for making your mod quite a bit fancier with quite a lot less work. And so that's the next step in these boards is the expansion bus stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and this is, you put these mods in your machine, right? You know how like sometimes there's like little, you have to unplug this jack and plug this in, or like clamp on here. I have Roadshow. Best game ever created. Fight me. Dwight's here somewhere. Thank you, man. But Ted's. I got the mods, right? And there's like the little warning lights on top that like warning construction, and it goes to the bulldozer in front of Ted, up and down. So when you're in multi-ball mode, it's going up and down. The lights are flashing. It's cool. Well, like it also runs during ball search. Lame. Because it clamps onto the bulldozer. If the bulldozer moves, my lights are on. Well, what we're saying is like we're running the game code even in the old games on these boards. Look at, we got these little computer-looking jacks on here. They're not. This is not Ethernet. Don't plug this into your home network.
That would be RJ45s for everyone who's technical out there. Anyway, keep going.
We got the jacks on here. That data Eli's talking about, everything that's happening in the game you plug in, now the people who, you guys are making mods, all you who make mods, you plug the mod in, and it connects in there, and like Eli said, it can know everything that's happening in the game. Not just what light is on, or not just what switch is on, or what driver is firing, but like what mode is running, what position are you in? It knows like, hey, what's the grand champion score and what's your score? It knows when you surpass the grand champion. It knows when you surpass second place. It knows when your second ball is the best second ball ever. It knows when your second ball in first player just surpassed second player and you're now in the lead. What can you do with that for mods?
Yeah, That would be pretty slick.
I mean,
I was going to say, too, one of the things we can do with these things as well is we can create mods that are going to, because the important thing to remember is, like, if we're going to be running the original game code on these games as is, and new game code, we can add stuff to the games that might be like add an auto plunger to a game in a way that's not going to be hijacking a coil from the original game. So we can add that into games and add new commands that people can add in their software to call that out. So you can even modify some code like that wraps around the original game ROMs to say if we want to add a ball save to stuff. So we've really got all the building blocks to add stuff to these games in a way that's not going to mess up all your existing mods. So when we put these boards in, if you have a bunch of mods in your game already, they'll think it's the original controller and everything will be fine. But as we add new addressable content, new addressable pieces that plug in, like if you had, say, we've got a board that we're using for like adding an auto plunger. If you add that in the system and plug it into the expansion bus, the system knows it's there. So if you wrote some game code that was saying if there's an auto plunger, when the ball is sitting there to kick it out, fire it out automatically. But if it's not there, present on the screen that says, hey, plunge the ball I just kicked out for you. So we can really add some intelligence to these mods that are not just going to, it's going to allow the programmers to do some really elegant solutions, adding some really cool things to even existing games. The expansion bus is cool.
And also, you don't have to be the programmer in this case, right? If you want to make mods using this platform, you can. Or you can just wait for other people to do it, and then you can buy the mods that do that. So you can also go to your favorite.
Give people the idea, like, you know what you should make? Like, oh, really? Right
go
on.
to your favorite mod maker, and have them build on this platform. And then even if you're not doing a whole additional conversion game, it's just taking that board out, plugging the new one in. You can sell the old one on eBay, which cuts the price of the new one in half because those old original boards are becoming more and more rare. That WPC ASIC, for the technical folks in this audience, is going to be about the most valuable chip in this building in the next year or two. Sell that on eBay, and now you've got this enhanced machine.
Subsidizes the whole cost of adding these other things.
Yeah, one of the worst things when we're kind of trying to do the emulation is the GI. Oh my gosh, the GI, if anyone knows the hardware out there, essentially there's a zero crossing that happens on the AC, and it's a time thing to, how bright are they going to be based on how much of the cycle it's going to use. And so when we're doing the emulation, it's like, this doesn't make any sense to try to emulate this. We can add way more shades. I don't know, someone will have to help me out. It's either 8 or 16 shades that the original games had, but I wanted to overdo this. So we have 256 shades that you can do if you're making a 2.0 game. There's 256 shades now, right? But it's like, we didn't want to do this weird, how do we get this data out of the original? Yeah. So Eli's in there sniffing RAM and showing me there's only 5 bytes of RAM. That's right? 5 bytes that you sent me?
The GI is, if that.
Yeah, if that.
I think there's only 3 controlled on most of the generations and a couple of non-controlled.
So what he's doing is, while he's emulating this game, he goes and sniffs RAM, and he tells me what that GI is supposed to be doing on the playfield. And we run it through a conversion table, because, oh my God, we got 256, and we only need 8 or 16. And anyway, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah. And the other thing doing it this way, because of the way we're doing it so fast, is that you turn on a vacuum cleaner on near some old machine. It's like your power sag for a minute. Your lights flicker on your original machine, but it doesn't do it on ours, because if it's missing, we fake those cycles and stuff like that to try to sit there and keep the lights from doing weird things. Anyway, I love it. If you ever want to see a demo of some cool lights, come check out the booth.
Come vacuum his shop, and it'll show you how it works really good.
So all of this stuff, which is funny, because if you look at any of our shops, it's clear that none of us have operated a vacuum in there in decades. But everything we're talking about is for these existing games, right? All these games that we all know and love. But that's just like half the story. We have what we call our modern platform also. And the modern platform is if you want to build a brand new pinball machine from scratch. Now you're not using these older technologies and older driver boards with everything in the back box. Now you can use modern, distributed, microprocessor-based technologies. It's all the same platform in the back end, so everything we do, there's different forms that it comes out, right? You can put in an old game, or we have our boards we'll show you over there for our modern platforms for brand new pinball machines. And this is, we'll talk about more of this and show off some of the projects that we're doing. This is, for example, if you look at the Fathom, which is in our booth right now. So you may have heard of Haggis Pinball in Australia. They created this new Fathom machine. So that's a brand new Fathom. There's an old Fathom, original from 1981, on the floor. And you can come to see the new one. It's shiny. And it's cool because this Fathom is a completely brand new machine built from scratch from Haggis Pinball. You open the back box, it's empty. I don't mean there's not much in it. I mean it's empty.
Yeah.
It's modern technology, and in this Fathom that Haggis has created, again, you can flip and play the original Haggis from 1981, or flip and play the 2022 version of Fathom. If you know Fathom, where in the original one, you're the diver trying to escape from the mermaids, sort of trying to attack you. In the Fathom Revisited, you're the mermaids going after the diver. Beautiful light show. There's a projector on the floor that projects all the lights around and everything. But you can open that up and see a modern pinball machine built on the modern platform. And so you'll see that commercial manufacturers such as Haggis who are using this technology platform to build their machines. And that's great. And there's companies doing this, and you buy their machines, and that's cool. But what's really fun with this is the homebrew world. So the homebrew. Again, homebrew pinball these are people who are building their own pinball machines. We talked earlier about people writing their own code for existing machines, but now we're talking about people like literally building pinball machines from scratch. And you already thought pinball was pretty nerdy. And you already thought then that writing your own code for pinball was pretty nerdy. Well, now just like raise that nerd bar and build your own pinball machine.
Pinball nerds are so cool.
And again, in the audience, again, show of hands. Just look around. Like there's 3-4 people right here today who have done this. You can raise higher. That we're gonna go there, talk to them.
If you've done more than one, raise 2 hands. I mean,
Talk
we've got
to
people
them.
who've made multiples of games here.
Yeah, and we'll call some people out, right? It's like Led Zeppelin from Steve. Are you here, Steve? Steve Condis.
I think he's writing code.
His Led Zeppelin. If you show a picture of Led Zeppelin again, to sort of zoom in, that is a stairway to heaven. It's an escalator. The ball, you see that little stairway in the middle? The balls, there's magnets in the stairs. The balls stack up there, and then it starts, and the stairs move the balls up to the upper playfield. Like when you make your own pinball machines, whatever craziness exists in your head, you put onto the playfield and create that world under glass. And it starts, we were talking to them yesterday. It starts, you get a piece of plywood, you drill some holes, bolt some flippers in, and you start. In Steve's game, he doesn't have any lights yet. There's not a lot of code, but it's working, it's flipping. You can open it up, you can go play it.
Yeah, and he drove up from Utah to bring it up here and hang out. So, I mean, like, high five to that. That's just great to have that time together in person. So, yeah.
And he's also documenting this entire journey on YouTube, too, which is just fantastic. I mean, I don't have a lot of time, spare time to watch stuff, but I've been watching all his videos and stuff. And, I mean, I guess this inspired me to maybe build my machine one day, but it's been great watching his whole journey because he's also showing all the problems he's ran into. I think he's probably on his 4th playfield cut, and hopefully by watching those, I won't make the same mistakes that he maybe made. But it's like, man, I love what he's done. It's fantastic.
Different mistakes to make.
Yeah, right.
Another machine that is over there next to that is this is the retheme of a Baby Pac-Man. This is Brendan's machine, who's back there in the audience, and I just want to point out that, like I said, Brendan's been working on pinball. He's a good, very, very good pinball player, much better than me, I'll tell you that. And it was a school. It started as a school project for 8th grade graduation, and he's been doing it for a couple of years. It's flippable, it's playable. I was playing it last night. It's super fun, and it's sort of a space theme. And this is the machine that he built, and it's cool. He doesn't have a lot of room for pinball, so it's a Baby Pac-Man sized machine. I mean, you can really make it work with the space you have. So like,
well, wasn't it a suggestion for pinball bunk beds? Like, lift your bed up and build pinball.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that yet, Brendan. But we are brainstorming.
We're working on your solution
machine
to get more pinball going in your house.
Lift the bed, and underneath is a workshop. Another machine that's a homebrew that is based on our modern platform that's over there in the booth is Fight Club from Mike Becker back there.
So cool.
This machine, holy moly. You go and look at it. Go look at it after this talk. I mean, the 3D printing, the toys, the lights, it is light show galore. And I think, we were talking yesterday, Mike, and he's like, I like a lot of lights. Hey, guess what? You like a lot of lights. You make the machine, you put a lot of lights in it. LEDs are cheap. You can make a lot of lights, the light shows. It's a very fun game. phenomenal.
The sound is great. Like my favorite sound thing right now, that I was telling Mike, like the way the slings work and the way that sound that it uses when it triggers the slings works into the whole soundscape. That's my favorite thing right now.
And he's got more hardware in there than a Twilight Zone.
Yeah. And check out the bar doors. That's my favorite. I mean, it looks like a bar that you would want to go into. It's like I'm jealous that Pinball gets to go through there and I can't. But I mean, this is one of the reasons I wanted to come to the show. I mean, I've been following this for the last couple of years. He's been building it, and it's just like I've had the honor to talk to him a couple times on the phone. Little issues here and there, but man, I tell you, it's like as soon as I saw it first, I'm going to play this right now. And it did not disappoint. It was awesome.
And like we said, there's a few more machines to look at, but it's rare. I mean, some people do everything themselves. Sometimes you have a group of 2 or 3 people, because you might have one person who likes the woodworking and building things, and they'll build the cabinet and bend the metal and that kind of stuff. Maybe someone else is more into computers and electronics and does the programming. Someone else likes to do art, and they do the drawings for the screen and the playfield animations. And so you can sort of collect together people. There's some people in our group. One person needs some custom LED boards designed, and someone else in our group says, "Oh, I can help you do that," and they get them designed. So everyone kind of helps out with what they're good at and what they enjoy doing, and it's a community effort. And it's really fun to see, especially because a lot of the stuff can be done remotely, not just with the times when a lot of us are spending more time at home, but just, we've got people in our group from all over the world. Within everyone who buys any FAST Pinball controller boards can join our Slack community, and we've got a lot of channels in there and people talking about how to do this, how to do lighting, how to build, how to do all this kind of stuff. And so we're all kind of there hanging out. And it kind of follows the sun around the world. Someone's always awake at some hour in Slack to help out with the question or help them do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, sure.
Some of these other fun machines. How about this Mass Effect? Another Anthony Van Winkle. Anthony, I see it back there. Anthony Van Winkle, he's got 4 machines, 3 different projects that he's done. And the Mass Effect game is this is the one that is the Game of Thrones.
Like kind of a retheme,
yeah. A retheme. It's a Game of Thrones playfield using the modern platform. He wrote just the new code for that. And by the way, the code for these things, I'm going to put you all on the spot again. Like everyone who's built a pinball machine here, there's 4, 5, 6 people. Look around at these hands. How many of you would say you're not programmers? Okay, you don't have to raise your hand. But there's this, even for the code, there's a project, it's called Mission Pinball Framework. It's this open source pinball framework project. And you can get started by downloading, installing, and using some configuration files to say, here's a light, here's a flipper, when I push this button, make this flipper go, play this sound. And you can work your way through it. And you build it up little by little by little. But there's a whole bunch of the 16 or so machines in our booth, probably half of them are using this Mission Pinball thing. It's open source, it's free, it is maintained by a bunch of people, and people are sort of helping each other out and that sort of thing. So even if you don't feel like you're good at programming or even know how to program a pinball machine, this walks you through it. And on the Mission Pinball website, there's a lot of documentation. On the FAST Pinball website, we've got tutorials, and we kind of walk you through getting started. So you really can take small steps, right? Like I think it was someone in the videos yesterday said, hey, the first step is really just get a piece of plywood, bolt some flippers to it, plug in a controller, push a button and it flips. And then it's just small steps, small steps, small steps from there. Now you might take 1 million small steps over 5 years, but really it's just a series of very small steps.
We shouldn't skip over the point that like Brian started the Mission Pinball Framework and put in bazillion hours into it and has really enabled a lot of us to do a lot of really cool things in pinball. Plus, he's a documentation madman, so anything that you ever see about Mission Pinball or Fast Pinball and it's legible and logical and teaches you something, that's all what he does. So that makes everything that we do and work on and get excited about like actually like something you can actually sit in and work on. So thank you for being insane with documentation.
Well, yeah, and this is the system working. Like this Mission Pinball thing, I created originally, and then this guy Jan started helping, this guy Quinn, then Anthony back there. Like all these folks have spent hundreds or thousands of hours to sort of make this framework better. Like the idea is, like every pinball machine needs like a ball save feature. Right. So like one person writes out once and puts it in this Mission Pinball framework, and now everyone can have ball save in their machine. So it's kind of like the collective Borg all getting smarter with this stuff. And so, sure, I kicked off this Mission Pinball framework project, 8 years ago, but it is what it is now because of all these other pinball nerds who have taken that and built and built and built. Yeah. And the same with documentation.
And even if you're an anti-Python snob, like I happen to be, I go and look at their documentation. I go and look at how Mission Pinball has done stuff. Because there's such great documentation, and the code is all commented, and people have done amazing work on it. So it's a wonderful resource, even if you're not personally using it to develop in.
Yeah, it's a guide to solving all the things that pinball needs, and it says this is why you did it this way. This is why we solved it this way. Like it really makes pinball into a pay by numbers kind of thing. Nobody wants to sit around and solve like ball finds or player management or matches and stuff like that. Like it's already built into it. You just tune up the results and make the experience what you want it to be, but all the building blocks are there. So someday I'll totally make a game with it.
No.
Next year is
not
when I'm
someday. Everyone wins. Aaron Davis next
Dude,
year.
we'll do it, man. We got to do it.
And by the way, this Mission Pinball for that Haggis machine, or that Fathom, there's also Celts out on the floor. These are both running that Mission Pinball framework. So this same free framework you can use on your machines is also running commercial pinball machines that are taking money out in location. So it is, and same with the FAST Pinball platform is in commercial machines. So everything you have access to in your house is the same platform that the professionals use to build their stuff. And again, so that allows you, if you build that one machine and you're like, I want to get 500 of these made. And you can focus on pinball and not become a job like an IT person. That was me. There's a path to that. But I was going to say on the documentation also, I spent 28 years as an IT person before I switched to do pinball full time. And as an IT person, I was doing a lot of technical writing. And I like writing. It's next best thing to talking. And so I wrote lots of documentation for Mission Pinball and documentation for FAST. And the reason I mention that is I said it's the system working because much like creating a pinball machine is a collective where there's different hobbies and skills, and you do the ones that you want to do and you're interested in, and you find people to do what they're interested in. We are all different in what we love and what we enjoy. Like, I love writing technical documentation. I really, really do. And so here, like, I don't have a good vision for the future. Like, what's the pinball looking like in 10 years? Like, more lights? But you talk to Aaron, he's got the whole view of how that all should work. All this electronics, every little thing on here does something important. I don't know what any of it is. This guy does. All the code, this guy does, right? Like, I'm so excited that my role here is I get to take what they do and just write about it and share it with people. Dave loves that he can build this and Eli puts code on it and I write about it. Eli loves that I write about it and Dave makes the hardware and he does that. Aaron loves that he can have this vision and we build it. Like, it's the system working.
What I love is I hate documentation. All the notes I've ever created was like engineering notes. So someone else that knows what's going on can hopefully make stuff work. And so now what's awesome is I just get interviewed now by this guy, and next thing it's a document. I even know how it works. So it's like, it's fantastic. I love this relationship. So.
And all the fonts are perfect and everything lines up just right, like it really does take a lot of like the madness of what we've worked on so much for so long and presents it really well to the people who aren't like sitting here listening to us gushing about it. Like someone can take the docs, hand it to the people that they're working with, and actually like have that experience be professional. Like it really took away the biggest black eye that we had was like, if only your documentation could be better. And he took all our random Google Docs and text files and stuff all over the place, and boom, it looks awesome. We look really professional.
And I mean, it's what's great about it too with the documentation is that lets you dip your toe in a little bit without any real commitment, right? You can go to fastpinball.com, click on the docs, in the menu, and you can see our documentation site. And there's tutorials on there. You can see, hey, if you bought one of our controllers or one of our starter packs, you can read through the tutorial about how to connect it and how to do this and how to get a light blinking. You can read through. We have guides for wiring pinball machines, right? Because pinball, I mean, it's voltage and electricity, and we want to make sure that everyone builds their machines in ways that are safe, and we have guides for that. So here's here's what kind of wire you use. Here's why you use this wire. Here's how you connect it. Here's how you wire up flippers, and here's how you wire up your lights, and all these different components. So you can read all those tutorials even before you buy something and just see how it works. That Mission Pinball framework we talked about, that software that's free, you can download it even if you don't have a real pinball machine. You can run it just by itself, not connected to a real machine. You can build your game, you can make your configurations. There's little tools you can use to actually like see it and see lights blinking. I mean, it's on your computer screen, but then by the time you get the real hardware, you plug it in. Actually, that Mark in City, the guy who made the Nightmare Before Christmas, he did his whole game sort of in software ahead of time just to kind of test it out and make it working before he started making anything physical. So you can really, even if you just think this might be interesting, you can start reading the documentation, see the communities online, and just see if that's something that it sounds appealing.
Yeah. Or you can just come and hang out in the booth and watch us giggle about everything and point at everything that's fun, and that's part of it too.
Another thing, by the way, our booth, as I said, you walk in there, it's all along that left wall. The very first thing you'll see in our booth is these guys. So Steve, Rick, and Dan from DR Game Systems. They're friends of ours where they have machines in their booth that they built from scratch. These guys have like CNC machines for cutting wood and wood panels and like 3D printers and large format prints, all of the prints and posters for printing, like cabinet stickers, metal, all the stuff you need, like custom, they do that.
Yeah,
and
all the banners and stuff in our booth are all things they put together for us. So, I mean, it all looks great.
So it's kind of like, oh, I want to build a pinball machine, but I don't want to build a pinball cabinet from scratch. These folks make that. They can flat pack it, so you bring it home in your Toyota and assemble it like IKEA furniture. They can do the stickers for the side of your cabinet, right? They can do the translate, all these kinds of things. Like, as we, as a community of pinball makers, are learning what's needed, we find people who are good at doing different things. So that's the thing. You don't have to be good at everything. You will naturally be good at the things that you're interested in doing. And then there are people who are good at the things you don't want to do who are in the community.
Yeah.
And this is really a global thing. Everyone here at the show that's in our booth and around us is generally within the Pacific Northwest area. Steve came from Utah. Jacob came from Idaho. We've got folks around from Oregon, Washington. But there's folks on the East Coast. There's folks in Texas. There's folks everywhere doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, Europe, Australia, everywhere. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is.
And if there are people that know how to do things that could work in pinball, you can also lure them in. Show a cool project to do, Like we got our first show that we did that was not a pinball show was at the Museum of History and Industry up in Seattle, and we were invited to come down and kind of put on an exhibit. And so we went in there, we made some little laser cut wood pinball machines that people could assemble and stuff. But the people that came in were talking to us were like young engineers that don't really know pinball, but when you look at it, it's like, solenoids and magnets and switches and lights flashing. I mean, it's a STEM class in a box. Like, this is awesome, So it was very fun to see that people who don't play pinball and know pinball look at it as like a cool engineering feat or a fun project or some big kinetic toy. So again, there's been people that we've kind of lured into as like just having good skills applicable to pinball who are now hooked on pinball and making pinball. So, keep an eye out for them,
And you get you think about where you can use pinball mechanisms in the world, in the real world, not inside a pinball machine. I have a friend, I used to live in San Francisco, and he built a doorbell that was like a solenoid with a habit trail that shot the ball through the air and hit a gong, and then it fell down a bucket and rolled back through. It's pinball, it's the pinball mechanisms, it's a little fast board, and that's his doorbell now. He's a mechanical artist, you could probably guess, right? Look him up at Burning Man. But it's things like that, right? Like once you get these skills, and these are things that anyone can do. I mean, Aaron, our visionary guy, if you see him in the booth, he's using a microscope and a hot air gun, soldering and building boards. I mean, he learned that from Dave.
From Dave.
Yeah.
Everything I know about electronics came from this guy. So.
And I mean, these are all skills that can be learned. And so if you want to learn things, you can do it. If not, there's people around you that can do this.
And I've been teaching my kids how to do this stuff. So I mean, my son Henry, he's got Fusion 360 out. He's 3D modeling stuff. He gets to use our 3D printers as long as he does the things that we need. And so it's been fun to be able to, like, I need a piece of plastic that I can use to wedge into this and hold these PCBs up and stuff like that. So it is a cool thing to see, and to watch him pull Fusion up and start making models and things like that. It's like we had to upgrade from the EDU license that he had to a commercial license because now we're selling things that he's made. He actually like started making earrings, frog earrings that were very popular in the librarian scene. So I let him like keep making and selling earrings using our tools and stuff like that, because when I need him to do his chores to like build some things and model some stuff for us, it's worked out super well for us. And he gets to sit around and build cool things with what we've got around, and he's great to have around. And it's not child labor when it's your own kid, you know, so it's okay.
I just love also that it's very easy to make custom T-shirts nowadays, because I really feel like he needs a T-shirt that says like, I'm a big deal in the librarian scene. Look, we got like 10 minutes left in this talk. Obviously 2 days left in the show. We want to show, like, pinball is real. It's mechanical, it's visceral. The reason it's a thing is because we all live in our screens and our iPhones, and you see a pinball machine, and you touch it, and you shake it, and you feel it, right? Yep. This is something that it cannot be experienced elsewhere. So us talking about pinball machines and making pinball machines, go put your hands on the pinball machines that people are making.
Yeah.
And imagine how you can make that yourself. It is possible. There's a pathway to do it. The hard problems have been solved. There would be more challenges in puzzle making. You like Sudoku or Wordle? Have we got some fun projects for you? But I do want to say, we've got about 10 minutes left in this talk. I don't know if any of you have any questions on anything at all. If so, please raise a hand, step up to the mic. Feel free to ask any questions on any topic or anything that we haven't asked yet. I'll wait. If not, yes.
Maybe you could repeat it. Do you document just the Python, or do you also document the API used?
Okay, so the question is, do you document just the Python, or do you also document the API that you use? A couple of things. So the Mission Pinball Framework, that open source thing, that's written in the computer language called Python. If you're a Python programmer, you'll probably have a mix of Python code and these configuration files for your game, all documented. However, you don't have to. Those commercial machines from Haggis, Celts, and Fathom, not a single line of custom Python in there. They did all that configuration file to do their entire machines. That's all documented, as well as the whole API for the Python interface, all documented. For FAST Pinball, all of our boards, a computer talks to them via USB. It's actually a serial port that gets emulated. So none of our boards require drivers. There's no drivers, there's no libraries. You plug the USB into your computer, and a virtual serial port or a couple of virtual serial ports pop up. You send it ASCII commands. It'll send you switch information, turn this light on, fire this coil, configure this, et cetera, et cetera. Even for configurations, like you set a configuration into the board for like a quick action, like I want this button to be a flipper. So when it goes in, the flipper pulses for so many milliseconds. When I let go, it turns off. All that's happening in the microprocessors on the board, and you're sending commands to program and configure them. So if you like Linux, why did I start with that? If you like Mac, if you like Raspberry Pi, if you like Arduino, if you like Windows, whatever you're using, you can talk to any of the fast pinball hardware. The new stuff, the old stuff, doesn't matter. Anything that can talk serial. I have a Texas Instruments TI 994A. Aging myself, that's my first computer. We haven't done this yet, but I really want to make it work. We have to slow our boards down to talk 300 baud, but I want to make that happen.
Dude, I made a basic JavaScript pinball interface that was, I used a browser plugin that could make a serial connection, and that's all it took. I had some JavaScript code that was moving things around on the screen, but then also controlling the hardware directly. And again, just anything that can make a high-speed serial connection can run our system.
Yeah, I have demos. I'll sit there. If you come by the booth, I will show you coil firing.
Yeah.
The API as a documentation. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, if you type in a few characters in ASCII, send it down to the board, it's going to keep doing that action until you tell it to do otherwise.
So if that is interesting, Dave has a whole routine. You light up segment displays, fire coils. Come and see it. It's definitely worth it.
And docs.fastpinball.com it's called the Fast Serial Protocol. That's all referenced there, and you can dig in and go nuts. Yes. So the question is about the retro platform, and the question specifically is, can the new game code interact with the old game code? And the answer is it's complicated. So the old game code, was written for the 6809 30 years ago. So that's sort of, it is what it is. Now with this mod stuff, this expansion board bus we're talking about, with that emulation that runs that, which Eli wrote, I'll let you talk about this. This is where you can peer into it and see what it's doing and do fun things.
I'm just wondering if there's triggers you can jump and cause new game code functions.
Are there triggers where you can jump from the old code and trigger new game functions?
Let's, Eli, why don't you address it from the software standpoint, but I want to come back and address it from the hardware standpoint, because it's kind of interesting. There's two different ways to answer this question.
Yes, if you're willing to do some work. I don't know if you're familiar with the old game cheats that you could get on your Nintendo or something. Basically, the code's there. We can give you the information about everything that's going on, what's in every value of RAM, what the code is doing. It's not necessarily easy to say, okay, I want to replace a subroutine in that code.
It's a simple question. Are the code images separate and unknown to each other? Or can you trigger?
The question is, are the code images separate and unknown to each other?
Yes, they report state. They can report state back and forth. You can change the memory of the emulated game, but you cannot,
You're basically writing some 6809 code if you want to get too crazy. But there's another answer to this, because I love this part. Anytime I take my laptop and plug it into a new machine I've never seen before, the lamp matrix, we're controlling all these things. And there's simple commands on all the machines on how this works. So it doesn't matter, System 11, 8995. When you're talking like lamp matrix and triggering all the components of the machine, which my favorite one is a soundboard, because it's like, yes, that is all triggers, right? So I loved going through and start playing all the different sounds that the machine has, because a lot of times I'll find like, oh my God, there's like 15 of them that never made it in the game. And some of these are cool, like my Twilight Zone. I couldn't believe how many sounds were never played in the real game. And so, I don't know, I really love that. And it's like, if you wanted to use all the original sound assets in the game to mess around with, man, that's all right there. And you can do it. And so, just think of your blank slate being anything in that machine I can control. And to make my new game, it would have to be the original sounds, unless you're going to get creative, right? Or go put a pie in there and make your own sounds. But man, what a good starting point. It is fun.
And I'd say, too, another thing to think about is like, the pinball is not that complex from a code standpoint, so sometimes the work it would take to augment the existing game code to do what you want could be better achieved by recreating it in new code and then exploding on from there to do more with it. So I think that it all matters into where you're putting the effort, because sometimes the new foundation gives you infinite possibilities, where the other one you're just kind of shoehorning this in over and over again. So
Like Haggis with Fathom, once you have the assets, also the code is kind of not super complicated, especially in these older games. Mm-hmm. So for Haggis with that Fathom, when you play the Fathom in classic mode, they just wrote that in MPF configs, because it was, you do it in a weekend. Again, they had all the sounds that they licensed through Planetary and everything, so it's just easier for them to implement. You laugh. I mean, it's a 1981 machine, okay? Like,
we could probably do it right here together.
I'm not
just
even
kind of sat around and wrote it up. Like, I bet we could do it. I knew all the rules to creating the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you knew all the rules, if you have all the assets already there, ready to go, and it's just like linking things together. And again, like the hard low-level stuff Mission Pinball framework handles already, right? Like implementing ball search, implementing that's all that code is written. So it's just like building blocks to use. We got like 2 minutes left, so we can maybe sneak in one more question if anyone has anything. Yes.
I guess this is for Dave. Is it possible, are you going to be able to do like a White Star emulator or System 11 do that? And also, now that Sam is kind of out for a while and not being
Why don't you repeat the question?
The question is, okay, so basically, the question is, we now are doing these retro boards for System 11, WPC 89, WPC 95. Are there other retro boards in our future? White Star, SAM, all these other old machines. Is there a future for, do we see these boards come out with those platforms?
And it's a really good question. I mean, the way that the platform is written, the way we've done the hardware, it would be no problem doing it. But at the same time, I don't know anything about these markets because most of my games are Williams games, and so it was really easy. I had all of them there. I don't have a White Star game, but I don't know if one day one ends up in my garage. Like maybe it's that borrowed game.
If you have a game that you want us to tinker with, just drop it off.
Technically,
it may just happen.
Technically, it's possible.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing with the Williams Valley Midway is licensed properly through Planetary Pinball. It just comes down to licensing and, is that license available? It doesn't make sense, that sort of thing. From a technology standpoint, this is all possible.
But I love the System 11 because all the 8995 still relies on a lot of boards. We don't have the drivers on there. Those drivers are still available. There's no reason for us to make those, right? But on the System 11, we had to do everything. And it's like, our forebearers, they did great on some things, right? I didn't like a relay on my board. So you don't see, there's no relay on this board anymore. I didn't want to have this mechanical component on here, right? But when you look at all the machines that have like switch matrices, lamp matrices, and all that, there's a lot of commonality between the machines. So I love this board for a lot of reasons because if you wanted to make an old school machine or maybe even take a System 7 or 9, update it, there's enough connectors on here and stuff, you can do it. And
we have 20 seconds left. I got to cut you off right there. In the door, turn left, fastpinball.com. Thank you for all the people building pinball machines. You brought them here. Thank you for coming and watching.
Thank you for
coming. Go build pinball!
Thank you, everyone.